Friends, I want to share with you the story of a hospital that carries the story of a people. First, let me take you back to one of the most horrific and dark periods in human history. The year is 1944, and a great rabbi named Rabbi Yekutiel Halberstam is in the concentration camps. And remember, this is a time when, upon arrival in a concentration camps, the Nazis would look out for rabbis, Hasidic leaders, and they would kill them immediately. And so he was in Auschwitz and somehow went undetected, and was one of the only rabbis to survive the camps. And even while he was in the camps, he behaved in an unusual way. He somehow was able to keep kosher and keep many of the mitzvot and inspire others with his faith and observance even through the most difficult of circumstances. As the war was coming to an end, and as the Allied tanks were coming closer and closer and closing on the German empire of evil, the rabbi is marched with other people through the death camps, through the death marches, and they're sent to march in horrible conditions of frozen cold and starvation, and he feels like he can no longer do it. Even though he was able to keep kosher, and even though he was able to keep his strength through the slave labor of the camps, he feels like marching in the cold like this with no food, no serious clothing to protect him from the cold, and no food, and just marching day and night with German soldiers near him. He feels like he can no longer do it. He has no strength, and he turns to God and he says, God, I promise you, if you ever let me out of this, if you ever help me survive, I will one day make it to Israel, and I will build a hospital there. Because he looks around him and he sees the people laying on the floor dead. Anyone who stumbled just a bit was shot dead by the German soldiers who were marching them. And indeed, he survives. And he goes to Israel after living in a DP camp in Europe, where he really also inspired Jewish life, opened schools, organizations, and revived the Jewish life post-Holocaust. And he goes to Israel in 1955 and meets with Israeli Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion, and he tells him, I want to build a hospital here. And he goes on to build many things in Israel, but one of the things he builds most famously is the Laniado Hospital in Netanya. If you go to Netanya, the city of Netanya now, you'll see right off the cliffs that are overlooking the Mediterranean, when you smell the smell of the ocean, of the Mediterranean, you can really just walk 5 minutes and see this magnificent modern hospital that takes care of many people in Israel. And it's also in the north, so sometimes when there are soldiers injured in combat, they also take them there. And this hospital was built by a vision of a man starving and stumbling after his wife and 9 children were murdered, and he was, with almost no hope, walking out of Auschwitz in the death marches. And so it's a powerful lesson of hope, and how looking forward can sometimes get us through the most difficult of times, and how using the power of good and optimism is really a way that both allows us to triumph over difficulties and also allows us to make this world a better place. May we be blessed with those abilities.